Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Javier Perez. You may also know me as JP2, and today we're going to talk some IT. All right, so everybody, I want you to say hello to my guest, Jason Banning. Jason, how you doing?
I am doing well.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. Um, wow, it's a little tight. This is our first interview in the room, so this is kind of exciting. This is the you know, this is how I wanted the room to evolve into something like this. This is pretty cool. Jason, can you go ahead and tell us just a little bit of your background? We're talking about IT, and I know some people are asking, well, what does that guy have to do with it?
All right, long story short, I have two degrees, one in health service administration, the other one is information technology management. More or less, um, I had to learn how to manage critical support teams, and I spent roughly 17 years at a Department of Defense contractor providing various levels of support to various areas of the Department of Defense. So, very important stuff.
Awesome, awesome. And the reason why this is important right now is because a lot of people they don't really understand how connected information technology and music are today. It used to be back when back in the day when when we were a little bit younger, that you found a buddy that had a Tascam 4 track and you tried to record everything you could in there, and you went to Radio Shack and you got the tapes and you did it all. Then you made copies in your house and then you sold them out of out of the trunk of your car at shows or at other bands' shows. But that's not the case anymore.
Right.
We have evolved. Things are definitely completely different when it comes to the way that the music industry handles itself right now. And there's so many people out there that I feel like they missed the mark when it comes to the little details in regards to IT. Like I feel like most musicians these days, they have a computer,
Yeah.
but they probably don't know the upkeep that you have to have with said computer in
No.
order to service you.
Yeah, that's actually, I would say, a big disconnect is some of you have very creative, very intelligent people that have very um, diverse, very complex uh, things that they want to express, be it music, video, art, visual art. Um, and what I find is people in general will be more apt to do certain tasks very well. But the whole machine itself, the whole environment itself, they might not have a complete or total grasp on. And they could be blowing money on things that might not be necessary, and that's where a lot of it is, um, or completely going overkill on stuff they
That's a
don't
big one.
that they don't need. They really don't need. Um, so I think now, where you could probably argue that a computer in and of itself is a musical instrument, and we're at that. I mean, that was kind of starting to happen in the late '70s, where the Fairlight um, uh, uh, synthesizer. It was a light pen, and it was very much a computer. And then various iterations since then. Um, but I say now, I think more so than ever, the computer is a musical instrument. Um, and knowing the computer, a PC or a Mac, regardless, either one, um, it benefits the musician to not only know the tools that they will be using, but also go a little bit extra and learn the machine that they are using. Because there are a lot of myths that float around the music industry on what's better, what's this. A lot of it, it's very very much based on popularism, popular brands, names, and of course, just like anything else, like with shoes or cars or guitars, there are some popular myths that trickle into a lot of the decision making that musicians have when they're looking to improve their setup or purchase a form of gear.
Like the Mac versus PC scenario that I get.
Yeah, it's
Everybody gets enamored with the idea of a Mac, and number one, they don't understand. Like a lot of people don't understand the cost that
yeah.
comes with it, and number two, they don't understand that at the end of the day, it really doesn't do anything different than what a PC does.
If
You're just paying for an expensive car.
right,
That's all you're doing. It's
and
still a car.
and don't get me wrong. I mean, Macs are perfectly fine.
Yeah.
The operating system, everything is. Many people will prefer that user interface. There's, I'm going to be clear. That's not what I'm saying here. It's just that the waveform that you get when if you're recording a piece of music is identical. It doesn't matter if it's on a Mac or a PC. That output, that end result, when you listen to it, you're not going to hear that, oh, that was done in this, because it's ones and zeros in the end. It's all boils down to ones and zeros.
Yep.
And there's cross communication now. Really, it's your preference, but a lot of the push to buy Mac, especially in a creative environment or a studio, a lot of that is popularist based. It's a popular brand. And with that, you get a lot of those popular myths associated with it. You can save money by going the route of having someone build a rig or building one yourself. If you know
Yeah.
someone that can get the parts together for you reasonably inexpensive, you can save a lot of money.
Hey, YouTube is your friend,
Yeah,
right?
YouTube, PC Part Picker is a great website that allows you to piece it piece by piece, and will incorporate the compatibility. And you can save hundreds of dollars on just building a machine yourself. But make sure you follow manuals. Make sure you know someone that has done it before that at least guide you. But that's a cost-effective way. You're gonna get the same speed as a high-end Mac with a reasonably built PC.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. But there's also like me. I'm also a gamer. A lot of musicians now are also gamers,
Yep.
so I tend to
Swag.
bias towards the we kind of bias towards the Windows end because of that integration. But that's a whole nother thing, and that comes down to preference too.
Yeah.
Um,
That's going to be a video further
that's
down
a
the
different
road.
video.
We may
That's
have to use the bigger room in the house.
right, exactly.
No, and so also another thing that I notice when it comes to these things is that when it comes to like buying a computer, like you said, I agree 1,000% that a computer is a musical instrument today. And it's not just that; is that, well, what music instrument are you buying? Because some people will go overkill for something that they just need to run some basic synths
Right.
live, et cetera, and other people will go bare minimum and then try to record an album with it, and that's where I think the disconnect is. Like, can you provide like one or two scenarios of like, if you're going to do this, then you should probably go for this.
You mean like
Like, let's say, like, if you're going to have if you want a computer where you want to just run some synths live or something, what type of computer should you go for versus
Okay.
if you want a computer where you're actually trying to record, like do video, audio, etc. What should you record? And I'm talking all facets, like even the actual form factor, laptop versus desktop, etc.
This day and age, we're going to say 2023, depending on how long this video stays in rotation. So let's say a year. All right. So let's say the remainder of 2023 into this time, September 2024. Let's say for stage, you can do, and if you just need something to run sounds, backing sounds, tie in for, like a laptop to tie in to an on stage MIDI controller. you don't need a high end, $2,000 or $3,000 Mac to do that. You don't. Bottom line, you don't need to go out. And the little lighted, Apple on stage, but let's back up.
Does it do that
Yeah,
still?
I don't
I
know if
thought
it
that it was
does.
just like the. I have to look.
I don't know if
I
they
think it's
still
just
do
the
it.
silverback anymore.
It might,
I remember how
there
like
was
the back
something
used
that
to glow.
changed. There's something that
Yeah.
changed recently. You might be right on that. But I mean, if you have a Mac, great. But you don't need to go out and spend thousands on something of that form factor. If it's just aligning sound, you can get something that, as long as it has a good CPU, and the obvious USB needs, maybe USB C, because a lot of external amps and connection and adapters will use USB C now. Um, Something under $1,000, like a modest mid-range gaming machine, and I suggest gaming because you already know those have a high
Yeah.
memory bus rate,
Yeah.
a high reading, a high read speed. So you
And
already know the audio and the video stuff is already going to be there. So, like any of the Asus or MSI, just mid range, bottom line video cards, you probably don't even need a video card.
and funny that you mentioned that, because sometimes it actually benefits the that you have the video card, because depending on the actual interface of the software that you're running, maybe it's a little bit more intuitive. Like if you're trying to run drums live and you're trying to
Right.
run EC Drummer or Get Good or something like that, well, you want the GPU to be able to provide you like the
Video
best
memory. Yeah.
version possible visually if you're trying to use that as a clue.
Yeah, and you'll eventually learn, if you're getting a laptop, pay attention to the CPU and the GPU. A lot of people get those confused, so I'll just say right now, one, CPU is the brain, GPU is what presents what you see on the monitor. Okay, quick terminology there, but GPUs, the better the GPU, it depends on how many and to what fidelity and visual representation, how many apps you're going to run. That's where the video memory and a higher end video card will come in handy. If you're going to be editing on the road, let's say you're going city to city or something and you need something to edit video, a modest video card is good. You don't need anything major like for gaming, but like a baseline, like if it's a Radeon, like a mobile, I guess we're on the 7000 series, so
I
like a
think so, yeah.
mobile 7500 or a mobile 7600, the lower end, you're fine. Like on a 13th gen, even a 12th gen right now, you'll find that. Even a 6500 mobile would be perfectly fine for that kind of a need. And plus, you'll be covered for whatever you would do on stage.
Yeah. And see, my preference, and this is something, so like to do like a little bit of a segue, but then get back into the whole thing. Back in 2017 is when I decided to basically get back into music, and Jason was a big part of it, because him and I, we went back and forth messaging. It's like, okay, so what do I actually need? Well, I still have this. Do you think I can use that? It's like, oh yeah, you may be able to use it for a while, until it dies, but then this and that.
Yeah.
But the biggest decision when it comes to like especially if it's something dedicated, like what I have here, where you're trying to do music recording, I get the form factor when it comes to being able to be mobile with it, but the advantages of just having your
Studio.
tower and being able to add parts and replace parts at will so much easier and so much simpler than on a laptop. I think that's something that a lot of people like forget, and they may want to go the laptop route because it saves them a little bit of money, but I think it's money well invested when you go the desktop route versus
Yeah.
laptop, because I mean, I've had this tower like
2020.
when did my machine died when we were playing Call of Duty? Was it 2020? Yes.
2020, because the pandemic had started.
Yep. That was fun. So yeah, so since 2020, it's when I built this rig, and we've probably done
Yeah, there's
upgrades
been
to the rig at least 3 times.
a couple things we've done on there. I was going to say that another thing to remember when you're buying hardware for a rig, typically the support range that the company assigns to like a motherboard or a video card or whatnot is usually 4 years. They will release firmware against the operating system, usually up to 4 years. Sometimes they go beyond that, and they determine that based on how many they know are out still in the field, and like people going and downloading the BIOS updates from the websites and stuff. But it's important to keep the motherboard BIOS updated. It's important to to open up your case if you have a workstation and blow it out with some compressed air every so often. The other thing to remember is when you have a larger workstation, it's going to last longer than something that's in a small form factor like a laptop, because the larger it is, the more space there is between the components and more air moves, and that air carries heat out of the
Yeah.
case.
You have it on
Heat
for like 4 or 5 hours on a session.
heat is the biggest enemy for anything that's electronic, and for a studio machine you need to make sure that it's in a more open area. If it's venting out a certain way, that air that's getting removed is going into an open area and not pooling. But yeah, heat, the larger it is, if you can get a case that's large for, all your components, yeah, it'll take up space, but you know that those components in there are going to last a lot longer
Yeah.
because they're going to breathe, there's air moving around them, so you're not going to have that thermal wear.
You mentioned a word that like it's probably the biggest, you know, caveat when it comes to like you're getting into music and you're buying equipment, and that is support.
Yeah.
So many people forget about the fact that, if your computer says that the updates are automatic, don't believe it. That's not a thing. You have to take care of your computer.
Yeah.
And it's not just that. Like my headrush pedal, that's actually it's a computer. I have to keep up with the firmware updates. Same thing with my computer. Same thing with other pieces of equipment that I have here that are music, but that back in the day, like you really didn't need to worry about this. You just bought it and played it until it died. But that is not the case anymore. So,
Yeah.
like, what's a good habit when it comes to like looking for firmware and like making sure you get your updates to your system.
Keep track of when you bought it, and when you do buy something, keep track of how long the components have already been out that are in whatever you buy or
Yeah.
build. That's also a factor because, I mean, granted, the support life of a motherboard is typically 4 years. It could have already been on the shelf for a year, right? So that's one thing, and that is kind of an industry standard. But like I said, sometimes they will support them beyond that. It just depends on how many of that component is out in the field, and there's still a need.
Keep it going.
Yep. And then what was the other part? What was the other part of the question? Oh yeah, keeping in track. Checking the BIOS. I usually check mine once every 5 to 6 months. The that would be on the manufacturer website of whatever motherboard, or driver. Like for the graphics card, uh, the drivers for those, they update typically automatically if you have the driver support software for the particular manufacturer. Like Nvidia has Nvidia Experience, and Radeon has the Adrenaline software. But if you don't use those, it's good to keep an eye, because that the more in tune and updated everything is, the more stable everything will be when
Yeah.
you're engaged in something that requires a lot of throughput and a lot of
And there are so many ways
power.
to actually like keep up with that. Like I want to say that every company has their own like Discord server these days. At least
Yeah,
it feels that way.
Discord. Sometimes they'll announce it on social media like Twitter. Like if you follow MSI or Asus or something like that, they're saying now out for these series BIOS updates. Sometimes they'll have them there.
Yeah, Headrush actually has a very, very, very well organized forum
Mm-hmm.
where you can go in there and I mean you can get specific downloads that you're looking for as far as sounds, but like the patches, they have people that will test and they will actually come out with what the results are before the patch is public, and it's really good. And I know that there's so many other like companies that do the same type of thing. Uh, is there a solution at all, like when it comes to like, is there such a thing as an all-in-one when it comes to a computer for music, or do you have to be specific as to like, for example, like, is there a computer that regardless of the instrument that you play and the purpose that you're going to give it to record, that is the case, or is it always the rule to just go by, if this is my area, then perhaps I need this.
Um, I think if there is any sort of compartmentalization on how this is supposed to be this and this is, I think that that would largely fall along the lines of the genre of music, for example, that a person might be in.
Mhm.
For example, a rock musician that is wanting to really go for full saturation, and their thing is they use vintage guitar amps and they want to encapsulate, they're going to go high end on their primary workstation, high memory, real, the probably the best CPU that they can get for that generation, because they're going to record at high sample rates,
Yeah.
96K and higher, to try to mimic that crisp analog sound. But a person that's in largely like EDM or electronic might not need a have a need to go as high for sample rate, so they won't have to spend a lot per se on the CPU or the memory speed.
Hmm.
They can shave cost there because they're not going to have a need to go up as high as 96K, more than likely with they're working largely with digital, and they're not recording on their own and trying to you know present native acoustic instruments or
Yeah.
something like that in its truest form. With digital, you have a little more leeway with that. The end result sounds amazing, of course, but I think a lot of that's going to depend on exactly what genre and how they're recording and or creating, how they're recording and how they're
Yeah.
creating. That's going to determine largely what kind of hardware a person's going to use. If
Yeah.
you're a studio, though, if you are a recording studio and you want business, it's best to have, you don't, it's like any other trade. You want the best tool for your trade.
Yeah.
So if you're not just going to be in one genre and you're going to record other people, be it live or like you have people here, um, you want I think you would need the best studio machine that you can afford, because you're going to have to not only account for the live musicians and getting them recorded true to form, but you also have the digital. So and you have to account for both of those things. So
And like I mentioned, and this is something that is true, and this is not an endorsement of any kind, but it is a reality coming from like two people that have a background in IT. YouTube is your friend.
mm,
Either the company already put out there the question that you have as an answer, or another user ended up finding it and put it out there. There's so many ways. There's no reason to like get stuck or be afraid of it, because now more than ever, if you're not good with technology, you are going to suffer as far as music, because it
yeah,
goes just beyond your programming and your recording. It's being able to create your own
mhm,
materials for promotions. Like you don't have to create the beautiful throw these away for me
mhm,
flyers that we had to do. Like everything is digital. Everything you can create 99% of what you need for your campaigns and everything from your cell phone, from a tablet or something like that. So now more
I'd
than
say it's
ever,
going to get even more.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna get even more automated, especially like
Like pretty
with
soon, this will be it.
yeah,
Like I'm telling you, in 10 years, 10 years. That's the number I'm giving it. 10 years, your workstation. I mean, just look at how games are.
yeah.
Look at the new Steam Deck and the other one, the Asus one. It's already this size.
I gotta say the
And
couple games that I've played on the iPad, and it's a new iPad, it's an iPad Pro. It's incredible, like how
right,
good they look compared. I mean, it's not what you will get from a PC,
right.
but the fact that that's on a tablet and the amount of space that it
Well,
takes and everything is like it's
and some
fantastic.
of the games on PC. Again, sorry tangent, but it illustrates some of the games that on PC that are cross-platform, like Fortnite and whatnot. What
Yeah,
you're playing on the phone
yeah,
is just scaled down graphically, but all the core things are exactly the same as the game that you're playing on the PC. So give that another
yeah.
10 years, you'll basically just have this. You'll walk in, you'll set it down probably on your counter or your desk or your mix station. Either plug it in or well, it will have to be because still wireless is going to create lag and stuff. That's
Yeah.
it's one thing that wireless hasn't quite conquered yet is
It's
that
gotten better. It's
it's
gotten a
gotten
lot better.
better. But when you're talking about many
Oh
tracks
yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that, it's never gonna keep
I
up.
I want to say that for live purpose, it's probably as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Like a perfect example of you have to embrace technology. The show I did with Nordic Hamster a few months ago. It's it was my first show in 10 years. The last time that I played a show, I had to haul my stack. I had to fight with the monitor in front of me because the singer's monitor was bleeding into my monitor and I could barely hear him. So at the end of the day, I just said, I'll just go and stand next to Oscar and we'll give each other cues and that's going to work. Whereas, fast forward to a couple months ago, there's no amps on stage. We're all going out of the neural pedal and the head rush. There's every everything is wireless as far as what we're listening. We all have our little packs and everything. I have my big headphones up there. It's kind of funny, and we have our computer with our synths and everything. The amount of technology that we utilize for a 30-minute set was immense. And the more I think about it, the main reason why I wanted to do this video is because the more I think about it, it's like it's only gonna be even more. I am one of those that thinks that the real instruments, they'll never disappear.
No,
People will
no.
always want to create with their hands,
Yeah.
and
Acoustic
the
instruments,
the
acoustic
vibrations,
guitars,
reverberations,
pianos. They're
exactly.
not going to stop making pianos. They're
There
not going
is
to
no
stop
way
making.
to feel how a guitar plays unless you play a guitar.
Right.
So that's never going to go away. But the incorporation of being able to do all the things
Mm-hmm.
that you can do with a guitar, like live, and we have so many one-man bands in this day and age. It's like that. That's why I wanted to make this video and talk a little bit more about it because people are missing out. Some people I feel like are missing out on the opportunity of making music because they don't want to deal with technology.
Yeah,
And I'm here
they
to tell
approach
you,
it like
like, you
a
don't have a
dogma.
choice.
Yeah, it's like there's a couple of things. Like one is like that's kind of approaching it as like it's some sort of dogmatic rule or belief system that you're gonna go to musician hell if by gosh you do this
Yeah,
action that wasn't done 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And then the other part is like, the end of the last thing any recording studio says when they go out of business is, well, that's the way we always did it.
yep,
So a lot of, I'm the first one to admit a lot of things that, I see in terms of changing, a part of me is sad because, you know, you think future generations they're going to be born into all of this groundwork already having been laid. So they're not going to know nor care about a lot of the comeuppance of why everything is here. They're going to go from their point, their benchmark, and go forward from that and build upon what's already done. So, you know, that's not to say you shouldn't have a foot in the past, because that's the
Yeah.
grounding, that's the humility. Um, you know, but now we're looking at artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
and
Ah,
and
not
I
a fan.
I I'm not a huge fan either. Largely due to being in IT, um, growing up very much like Javier, I'm sure, with all the warnings and all popular
Yeah.
media, all the Terminator films, John
You know,
Connor,
if
Sarah
they've
Connor,
made 1,000
Neo,
movies about it, then
uh,
maybe there's
uh,
something to it.
Metropolis in the 1920s was about what happens if you hand automation over
Yeah.
completely to those in control. Like, um, I think though that there are, just like any new technology. I think the perfect example to illustrate that was the lessons learned with the incorporation of robotics in the automotive industry. And it revolutionized the automotive industry, but it also affected a buttload of jobs.
Yeah.
And a lot of the problems we hear about in Michigan is directly to the result of how fast
Yeah.
those industries took on the automation. Um,
And oh, like, let me just like get something across here, because I understand, and you do too, like that there's AI in a lot of things that we do on a day-to-day basis.
we've had AI
I
since the
work with
70s.
exactly. I work with video, like as my main job, and there are instances where AI is my friend, and it
Mm.
helps me perform a task better and faster.
Hmm.
And I am not against
Oh,
that at all,
absolutely.
like whatsoever. My
Absolutely.
issue that I have is when you're utilizing AI to be your muse.
Right.
Like you're putting away your own like sensitivities and your own ideas, and you're saying, I'm gonna put this into the machine, and the machine is gonna put out something, and
Hmm.
then you're gonna claim it as yours. It's like,
Right.
that's my song. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Right.
Plus, there's some real like especially now when we're still in the wild west of the
Right.
whole thing. It's like there's some real ethical issues when it comes
Hmm.
to that aspect that us as musicians we need to CYA.
Well, it's one thing that we cannot help, like you, me, Javier, and people at large. It's not going to go away. It's out. The cat's out the bag. The Pandora's box is opened. Um, Younger generations, younger millennial and Gen Z are all about it. Um, what what I like seeing, and I'm already hearing with people that are in that age group and that demographic, is that a lot of them that I have talked to in that area seem very cognizant of the dangers. Thankfully, because of people like us being of influence.
Yeah.
If you talk to students that are in computer science and IT, at universities like UCF or something like that, if you were to pull them offside and what's your, you will see that if you're like, well, what do you think about AI? 9 times out of 10, the response is going to be, "Oh, this it could help solve many issues. It can probably help resolve this and this issues, make this and this better." The ones that you can tell are that have read into everything and understand everything, will have a but.
Yeah.
They'll go, but we need to make sure this, we need to make sure of that, and we need to make sure of that. So I'm not. I mean, I still have a degree of worry. You
Yeah.
know, again, it's having a Terminator skull on my desk while I was working at my old job. Like that reminder was always there. And I left my old job because of finding things out. And I worry that perhaps maybe the public at large will largely have that, checked approach. We're already talking about it. We're already in the midst of two strikes in the creative industry: the writer's strike
Yep.
and the actor strike. Both of them directly or indirectly have to do with AI.
Correct.
So now you have that mark and that bench in human history right now. I think, just based on what I know, you had that industrial mechanical revolution of the 20s that really launched the whole second half of the 1900s into this century, and that transition over we'll call it from 1925 to 2000, that 75 years, there was more technological growth, like Oppenheimer, the A bomb,
Yeah.
uh, the guy that did the first computer, Ben- Benedict Cumberbatch played him.
Oh my God.
It's on the tip of my tongue too. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yes.
The Enigma
Yep.
machine, and cracking the Enigma, and he created the
See,
first
I'm gonna
computer.
remember the name at some
Like
point in the next few days, in the middle of the night, and I'm gonna wake up my wife
microchip.
like scared, screaming some dude's
75
name.
years. 70. Think about this. 1925 to 2000. Let's just say that in that time span, the automotive industry exploded. Cars, international travel with jet engines. Jet engines came out.
Yep.
Atomic weapons, biological weapons, perfected from World War One. Really, in the media industry, the big IT push right there is media,
Yeah.
video games, personal computers, all within that 75 year, and that set the tone for this century.
Yeah.
And now we have AI. So now through those 75 years, you had architects, people that went to school to design buildings, um, uh, people really esteemed in math and trigonometry that set up, like the way that our properties are divided and subdivided. You have laborers, people that have vocations that are very important in management. Um, all of a sudden, now, because of the 75 years, now we have AI in a very open and complex form. Like I said, we have had AI algorithms since the 70s.
Yeah.
Now it's to the point where now we have supercomputers and quantum computing involved. Major universities studying this stuff. And now all these skills that people that are very much a part of people's identity. You talk to anyone that's a mechanic or a blacksmith or someone that has these very important skills. That's part of their identity. Like, when have you
Yeah.
ever met a mechanic and you're like, nah, he's not a mechanic? No, you like, serious. Like, when that
I
becomes
think mechanics are one of those people that you can see them from afar. It's like, that guy's a
Yeah.
mechanic.
Yeah.
You can tell.
But guess what? In the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to have mechanized machines that will repair your car.
Yep.
Uh,
And we're starting to see systems in place that they want to replace you as a musician. They want to replace you as an artist.
There are people that are already openly advocating that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And people are already getting in trouble. Like, every, I've seen it, and I've seen it from people that I know, where they decide to create their own artwork for their album or single, and not taking into consideration that right now those little like AI apps, they're just regurgitating
Yeah, they're taking
stuff that is out
images
there. They're
that's
not
already
really
there,
creating
yeah.
anything. They're just taking information that is public and using it to create something new. Well, then you start getting into copyright issues.
Yeah.
You start getting into trademark issues. That you see it very evident when it comes to the art right now, but we're going to get to the point where the sounds, the specific sound libraries
Oh, we're
and
already
stuff
at
like
that
that,
point.
like, we're going to be in a debate in a few years with licensing and all of that. Like I
I mean,
think
that's why
that
that
AI is going to
protest.
force everybody to do a system similar to what iLock is,
Yeah.
because it's the only way where you're going to be able to control your IP that you are actually selling to somebody.
Yourself. Yeah, your own
Yeah,
imagery.
because let's face it, just because you bought that software, like read the contract, like you own it, you own a license to use the software. You don't own the software.
Right.
The software belongs to the person that made it.
Right.
And a lot of people in the music industry, I feel like are taking that for granted. And I think it, I blame the entrepreneurial spirit. And we do live in a world where, like Ricky Bobby said, if you're not first, you're last. And everybody's just trying to push everything out there so quick that they're jumping
Here's
through necessary hurdles that you have to go to, like find an artist to create your artwork. Like it may end up being what you want. If it ends up being exactly like what you had in your mind, then you hired the right
right.
artist. Simple. If you don't have a way of getting a certain instrument recorded or something like that, go hire somebody that will do it for you. And once again, if it comes out exactly, that's like, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking. Then you hired the right person
Right.
for it. But instead of doing that, just like leaving it up to chance and having a piece of software saying, well,
Well,
you gave me these prompts, so here.
here's the other thing. It's like, you know, I think you and I both read an article about this guy celebrating AI because it will take down the elitist gatekeepers that are in these positions to
Yeah,
determine whether.
yeah. Sorry that I learned an instrument.
But there is a part of society that wants that, literally, that talent regulation, I guess you can
Yeah,
say, to be eliminated, uh, for some end means that I don't understand yet. I don't understand that means. I can see, let's say, if you were developing a piece of software, or let's say you're developing a score, and you were a musician, or in a producer role, and because of intellectual property rights, you can't exactly go out and bring composers right now. You're in your foundation of this film you're going to make. I can see an ethical use of AI by as having a storyboard, saying, here's the progression of my storyboard,
yeah,
and then having the AI create the storyboard blocks, because I'm not bringing someone on that can damage or potentially divulge
yeah.
my intellectual property, and I have it there for storyboarding.
Yep.
And then I say, okay, with the progression of the storyboard, as the narration is going with the storyboard, I need theme music. I don't need what? Okay, computer, please create dark foreboding music over a period of a minute and 30 seconds to illustrate this.
Yeah.
Boom. And then that storyboard, with the AI created storyboard and the AI created music, no one else is hired, but I'm the producer. I want to convey an idea. I go to my board, I show him this. Here's what I used:
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, but you get the picture,
Yeah.
right, guys? Okay, let's hire the people to make this done.
Exactly. That is not the final product. You are
Correct.
basically ethically using the things available to you to be able to create the roadmap,
Right.
like to be able to create your storyboards, et cetera, et
There's a
cetera.
practical use there
Yeah.
because, one, I'm protecting my intellectual property from being divulged to someone that's coming in a conceptual stage. I'm eliminating that problem. There's a problem that's resolved by AI.
Yep.
And then the other thing is, well, I can't exactly hire someone right now. I don't even have a budget for my movie, but I can create this storyboard. I can still adequately make some semblance of a tune. May or may not be the same thing, but conveys the idea of the storyboard. That's another problem that's resolved, and that's that entry to that accessibility to market that might normally be an inhibition to other people that have that same creative thing. So there are benefits there, and I see in those cases that those would be appropriate uses of AI.
I agree 1,000%.
Or creating a video game.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
been playing with AI in video games for 20 years now. So, like, again, there's elements of AI that are perfectly fine, and we at large, even the people that are complaining about it, we've dealt with it before. I think, really, to be clear, it's one area is to watch where skills and talents are. Knowing the how and why something is, I feel is very important. And I think going forward with AI, we can do that as long as we keep the how and the why involved
yeah,
somehow. Because if you let it run away and we get 30 years in the future and we're totally dependent on AI, and then we get hit with a solar flare from the sun of all ages, the worst solar flare for
yeah,
2,000 years, like in Blade Runner
yeah.
2049, and it knocks out everything. And we don't know the how and the why. How do we get the water? Wow, that sounds like a movie, doesn't it? Right? Like, that sounds like a movie that
We
we all
should
know.
cast ourselves in that movie as the old guys that are actually self sufficient.
Yeah, like
We'll probably die because we're old and not good looking, like a 20-something-year-old like main character, but it'll be fun.
everything's a button, like, but no one knows how or why. Like, that, and you can have all the technology in the
Yeah,
world, but if you don't know the how and why, that how is it benefiting? How's it a benefit to humanity? That's the question. How is it benefiting us and our growth? Like, if I'm certain, just in evolutionary biology, okay, I tend to believe that I'm certain in evolutionary biology, if we have several generations where we're not using a certain part of our brain because we've replaced it with AI,
yeah.
I'm certain that part of our brain will atrophy.
I'll tell
And
you exactly
I,
how I know that is true. Kids these days don't
oh,
know how to write cursive. Oh my God, kids these days! I sound like an old man. Ah,
well, they don't
no,
teach
but
it.
but yeah, like younger generation, they don't know how to write cursive
They don't teach it. They
because
don't
they don't
teach
teach
it.
it. Yeah.
They'll teach them how to sign their name,
Hmm.
maybe, but yeah, there's no practical need for modern day calligraphy, is what
Yeah.
I heard. That was how it was
Yeah.
explained. I'm like, why aren't we teaching cursive? I'm like, when the hell have you used cursive? And I'm like, that's a fair point, but I like knowing it. Like, I
Yeah.
still know it. It doesn't look good, but I know it. My
Hey,
signatures.
I learned how to balance a checkbook. I know we don't, it's completely unnecessary on this day in this day and age until you buy a house or you make a big purchase like that. So yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of comes in handy.
Right.
Like in to go full circle and come full circle and get back into the music aspect of why we were talking about this. I think it's as simple as this: if you didn't create it, you don't get to claim it.
I 100% agree, and that's exactly what I'm seeing happen. Is like, well, here's my parameters. Okay, that's good. I don't like that. I don't like that. No, no. I really like that. That's mine.
Yeah, exactly. Like it
That's
doesn't it
that.
doesn't work that way. It
This
doesn't work
this
that
is
way.
my expression.
Like I do all of my drums on in MIDI, but I do all of my drums. I may use a pattern that I find interesting, and I keep evolving from there. But at the end of the day, I created literally the entire thing, top to bottom,
Mm.
and I got into the habit of just consulting my resident drummer, just consulting Oscar, and just saying, "Hey, does this sound right?" And he does not like it because he'd rather record the part himself, but he understands the limitations, and he comes back saying it's like, Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think you're hitting three cymbals at the same time here, so
Mm.
you may want to tell the octopus playing drums that like that's just not possible. And so
Yeah.
exactly, but at the end of the day, when it's done, yeah, it's it's MIDI drums. It's not a real drummer, but it's a real drum part that I created,
Yeah.
and that's the difference.
And
Telling a system do this and it comes out and
case in
that's it
point.
and you claim it as your own is like number one you're doing a disservice to yourself because
Mhm.
you're not using like you said that part of your brain that is going to make you create something.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. And number two, it's like if you did not create it, it's not yours. It's as simple as that. There are a gazillion songs which are G major, D major, C major.
Right.
1,000 songs that are like that, but they've all been individually created by different people and injected with individual nuances and stuff that makes it unique.
Right.
It's not basically a template that an AI system is regurgitating back to you and you get to claim as your own.
Right.
This has been an amazing conversation, Jason. Thank you
Yes.
so much for being here.
And
Um,
it's good to actually get it kind of like because it really did encapsulate everything. It's like the positions that I have too. So it's kind of cool to have it actually encapsulated on one cast or whatever you want to
yeah,
call this, because now I'm gonna share it. Like,
no,
someone
exactly.
gonna be like, well, "How do you feel?" I'm like, "Share. Just watch this."
Hey, Jason, how do you feel about? Hold on. Did you get that text? Okay, good.
Yeah,
Go watch the video
using
and hit
technology.
subscribe.
Right.
But thank you so much for being here, and thank you to everybody for checking this out. I mean, we went many different ways on this topic, but the fact of the matter is that it all comes down to when it comes to music, you have to be versatile. You have
Yeah.
to be able to be your own technician. I mean, it saves a lot of time and
learn
money if
learn learn if you can take, like, even at a community college, or if you're already in college and there's a course that you can take just on fundamentals of a
yeah.
computer, and you're a musician. Take it. It works for both
Or
PC or Mac, doesn't matter. They all have CPUs, all that stuff.
even
Learn
right
about
here
it.
on YouTube, like you will
Yeah.
be able to find a lot of that stuff if you're in a crunch for time. You will be able to search on YouTube for the thing you're trying to learn, and you will find it. Like Google is your friend. YouTube is your friend, but in reality, Google is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Or insert search engine here is your
Yep.
friend, and it saves you time, it saves you money, it keeps you current, it helps you from running into scenarios where like you show up to the show and all of a sudden the computer needs 15 updates and you can't play the synths that you have, or your pedal board is not working because you are 10 versions of the firmware behind or something like that, which
It,
years ago, what we had to worry about was, did I bring enough strings just in case one of my strings break? In this modern world of music, what we need to worry about is, am I on top of all of my instruments, including my computer, my
it's
tablet,
IT.
my phone, and it's all encompassing. And second of all, the second part of the conversation, if you didn't make it, it's not yours. Like
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's no
Yeah.
easier way to put it. When it comes to ethical use of
Um,
AI, it comes down to that. If you did not make the product, it is not yours.
AI is a good way to avoid making anything.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
takes the work of having to make out of your hands. So that fundamental rule is the reason why you are not making it.
Yeah.
You're
And you may
you're
think
assigning value to an output.
yeah, and you may think that created a nice artwork or a nice song, but at the end of the day, not only did you take a job away from the person that was going to create the artwork or the person that was going to help you hire write the song, but you actually did not use your intellect to do those things, and that's disrespectful to your own self as an artist.
Yeah.
Like that's not the way that it should be. It's if you're an artist, it's your art. Nobody else can express things the way that you are going to express it. I say this all the time. Music is art, art is subjective. So whatever it is that you're doing, as long as you did it, it's yours. If
A
if there's
machine
an AI system that did it, doesn't count.
a machine cannot express. A machine can only give an output. An expression is only done by entities that have feeling and emotion. A machine cannot have a feeling and emotion. If the machine has a feeling or emotion, then this conversation is the least worry we need. Like this is the bottom
That would
of
be a
the bowl.
completely different video.
We would not need to waste time here. We would need to start stockpiling.
Yeah, run to the hills.
Food reserves, maybe ammunition.
Hey, listen, machines don't rock, but we do.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, just make sure you hit the subscribe button and the share button and the like button and all of that good stuff. Thank you, Jason, for being here. And until the next time.